think we are ready to go. So first off, I just want to say thank you all for being here. Today we're going to review our site supervisor training for our upcoming service term that starts Monday, June 3rd, which is this coming Monday. As I mentioned before, Adriana and I will answer questions throughout the session as well as afterwards. And I think we have a total of like 4 sections that we're going to go over. So if things pop up, feel free to, unmute yourself, raise your hand, put it in the chat, or wait until the end. I'll go ahead and introduce myself first. I think all of you know who I am. I'm Callie Foster. I am the Director of Programs here at Montana Campus Compact. I've been here for April was 6 years, was 6-year anniversary. So I've been here for quite some time. And I oversee both our AmeriCorps state grant as well as our AmeriCorps Vista grant. Some of you were a part of the Vista program last year, but due to some budgetary limitations with APR funding, Vista is no longer offering Vista Summer Associates. So we've been able to pivot and support all of the great work that y'all are doing this summer in our other grant. So there's going to be some new information for you if you had previously been a part of the Vista program. Adriana, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Adriana Van Human, and I am the program manager for the AmeriCorps State National Program. And I've been with Montana Campus Compact for 1.5 years and a year in this position this month.
Yeah, thanks, Adriana.
Yep.
Okay, so the objectives of today's session are to understand what a summer AmeriCorps service term consists of, how to support your members when they report on their service. That's a really important focus for us and our AmeriCorps grant. So we want to make sure that you are knowledgeable of what the expectations are. And to understand what should and should not be on members' timesheets. So hosting a summer AmeriCorps member, just some basic terms. This is information you should all be aware of, but the terms in the living allowance are as follows. So we start all of our members on Monday, June 3rd. And if your members are serving for 10 weeks, they finish service on August 12th. If they are serving 11 weeks, they start on June 3rd and end August 19th. During the project proposal portion or application of program development, you had to kind of opt into one or the other. I think most people here, with the exception of maybe at the Zootown Arts Community Center, we have majority of people doing the 10-week service term. If your member is serving 10 weeks, they have to complete a minimum of 300 hours during the 10 weeks, and they will receive an education award upon successful completion in the amount of $1,459.26. And if your member is serving for 450 hours, they have to complete a minimum of 450 hours during the 11 weeks. And that education award that they will receive is $1,824.07. All members are receiving the living allowance of $2,823. And it does not matter which service term they are serving. That is the across the board living allowance for all members this summer. Expectations that we have of y'all as site supervisors, pretty simple, but first is to provide orientation and training to all of members that are serving at your site. So we're going to provide an orientation on Monday, but the expectation is that you are going to ensure members understand on-site procedures and policies, what your individual expectations are of them, and to communicate regularly with them and provide feedback. Treat them as staff. If you have like a weekly staff meeting that you do with salaried folks, please invite your members to that. We want to make sure that they feel appreciated, included, and have a good understanding of what needs to happen at your site. An expectation that we have of you is to review and approve weekly timesheets through America Learn's online platform. So this is a third-party vendor that we contract with, and they support us through risk management, timekeeping, approved activities, etc. And the last expectation is that you support your members in submitting monthly impact reports. So there's 2 online requirements. We'll get into them later. But the first one is timesheets, and the second one is impact reports. Okay, so talking about prohibited activities, I'll pass it over to Adriana.
All right, so prohibited activities, there are just a few activities that members can't partake in when they're in AmeriCorps service or wearing their AmeriCorps gear. They're welcome to engage in those activities when they're not doing AmeriCorps service, so in their off hours or free time, they're welcome to do any of the following list. All right, so there are just 7 main prohibited activities. I'll run through them, and then in the next slide, there are a few more specific examples. So AmeriCorps members cannot influence or engage in influencing legislation, organize or engage in protests. This includes like preventing protests. Political engagement, a few examples of that would be like voter registration, driving people to the polls, supporting any type of polling, religious activities. They cannot promote religious instruction or worship. I think that they, correct me if I'm wrong, Callie, but they can serve at like a church or a religious site as long as they are not engaging in actual worship activities or
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so we can place members at faith-based organizations, but we cannot have them leading worship, or prayer, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. All right, and then union organizing, providing abortion services or referrals, and then texting while driving. And then in the next slide, it just gives you a few specific examples like attempt to influence legislation, organize protest petitions, boycotts, promote or deter union organization. And then they can't provide direct benefits to a for-profit business, a labor union, a partisan political organization, nonprofits that do not comply with 501c3, religious organizations, and then again, conduct voter registration, provide abortion services, and then they also cannot support needle exchange programs. They can do any of this in their free time, just not during their service hours and not while wearing AmeriCorps gear.
Great, thanks, Adriana.
Yeah.
Oh, there was one more slide.
Yeah, so again, AmeriCorps members can't engage directly in these activities, and they also can't engage indirectly with them by recruiting, training, or managing others. So if a member were to train someone on voter registration, that would be a prohibited activity because they're indirectly engaging in that activity.
Okay. Yeah, and something that I like to say with prohibited activities is members can do any and all of these things on their own time, on their own technology, and in their own clothing is typically what we tell members. Okay. So getting into reporting, as I mentioned earlier, we would really like your support on encouraging your members to complete the reporting, for you to oversee it. And essentially, why we report and why we require members to submit monthly reports is that, one, it helps us track performance measures. With federal grants, we have to make sure that what we say we're doing, our members are doing, and we are doing as well. It helps us tell the story of member service. Our funders really like to see those stories kind of come up the chain because they're not here in Montana with us. And we also like seeing it as well because we're not, there on the day-to-day. with your members throughout the summer. So we really like to hear stories of how, service has impacted them, or how they have seen impacts through their service. It demonstrates the impact to our funders, not only through stories, but also quantitative and qualitative data. And then with reporting, there are set due dates. So we will communicate this with your members. But the first monthly impact report is due on July 5th of this year. And then we have another one due on August 9th. So typically we would do one every single month, but we recognize that it's kind of wonky to have someone submit their July report on like August 1st, and then they submit another report on August 9th. So we are combining July and August reports to be due on August 9th. They're always reporting for the previous month. So when they're filling out their report in July, they're reporting June's data. When they're reporting in August, they're reporting July's. The final report must be received before a member can exit service. So we will communicate that to your members, but we want you to be aware of that as well, that, unless we have all of that data in the report, we're not going to exit your member, and it could get into the realm of them being technically like unsuccessful in service. So it's good to just keep those in mind, and encourage your members to complete those on or before July 5th, as well as on or before August 9th. So what we collect in the report is sent out automatically through an online platform that we use called Qualtrics. And so the report has a list of questions. Some of them, your members are probably, some of these things aren't going to be relevant. So if they're entering zeros, that's totally fine. But the things that are relevant, we want to see that data. Things that we're going to ask are going to be number of individuals served. So that's just all individuals. There's questions that are going to get down into more nitty-gritty demographic stuff. So number of low-income students served, community members, tribal members, veterans and military families, disadvantaged youth. So those are going to get into the more demographic nitty-gritty stuff. If your program doesn't serve veterans, military families, tribal members, then you do not need to report on those. But if you do, and and you're tracking those, please report on them. For sites that provide like meal services, so like a food bank, meal site at like a school, if you are part of a federal or state program that provides meals and you have to track that stuff, we would love to hear about it as well. So number of pounds of food donated, number of meals served. And then we get into the outcomes. So all of this stuff that I'm circling here has to do with outputs. And then I'm going to get into outcomes. So an outcome is going to be related to like number of individuals that reported an increase in food security. So you did the work, what was the impact? Number of individuals displaying improved academic or social emotional skills. That seems to be the outcome that a lot of you chose in your project proposal. So I just wanted to let you know that we will be collecting that information. If you are recruiting or engaging volunteers, we want to hear about that. Number of hours that volunteers have committed. Great stories. There's going to be kind of a narrative box for members to fill in a great story. We want to hear about quantifiable changes as well. There's an option for them to upload photos, news and media coverage of events, as well as social media links. If you are, showing things on your social media and there's a way for your member to collect those URLs and send it to us, we would love to see that. Same with news media coverage of events. With photos, I know photos are relatively tricky because media releases are a thing, especially for minors. So we will train your members, and I encourage you to talk to them about this as well, that if they are serving with youth, and there are youth that did not sign a media release, that sort of thing, it's best to take pictures of like the back of their heads or from very far away, or maybe of like the product of the event, or if they're doing crafts or something like that. but we will talk to your members about that as well. So I encourage you to talk to them about that as well, that they should not just be willy-nilly taking photos of minors. But if there are photos that you think are appropriate to share, we would love to see those. Okay, moving on. So a little bit about like great stories. These are going to be narratives that we're asking your members to, write, describe what's going on. And so it's really a chance to share something that stood out to them during their service. Did a student or a youth or an individual have kind of a light bulb moment and talk about it? Did you have a meaningful discussion about like a student's plans? This is a slide that we show our full-time members. So these examples are not the most applicable here, but still we think it's relevant to some degree. Did an event produce great feedback that demonstrates the impact that you're having? So an example that we've pulled out of a report is, as planning begins this month for our summer academy, I had the opportunity to discuss with several students their experiences from last summer. One student shared how the summer academies have developed them as a leader, providing them the opportunity to step into the role of student government president and to lead in less official capacities in the classroom and social engagements. So that's just an example, an idea. If your members, have a great story, we want to hear it. Quantifiable changes. This is really where we're going to be focusing on those outcomes, the impact that your members are having throughout service. So we want them to share any quantifiable information that indicates impact. So number of students displaying higher social emotional skills, higher attendance at events, number of pounds of food donated or delivered, number of meals delivered. An example from one of our full-time members is, instead of having only one student set on applying for a 4-year school after leaving Dawson Community College, I now have 3 students looking into 4-year universities to complete their undergraduate degree. It may not seem like a lot, but the fact that they are looking into their next steps as far as their education has me so happy and proud of them. Okay. Any questions so far? Anything that's popping up for y'all that you're thinking about that you want to bring to the group? Okay, Claire Ann, what you got for us?
I just have 2 quick questions, Callie.
Mhm.
One is, both of our members, when I filled out the application, it was for 10 weeks and we never received any other information if they were able to serve for extended time. Is that something that can still happen if they want to, or no?
Yes, we can always roll members up from 300 hours to 450 hours. That's always an option. The thing is that they need to be very clear and understand that once they roll up, they cannot roll back down.
Okay.
That's something we have to do within our grant. So if your members are like cruising along and they're like, hey, I could do 450 hours and I want that extra $400 on my education award, yes, just let us know and we can make that happen.
Okay, great, because we'll know by today and we'll be clear on that commitment.
Okay.
And then my other question was regards to the, I don't know how you framed it, like if they participate with a church or a religious organization.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What is the policy on tribal and cultural protocols with that?
I don't know if there are different protocols on that. It seems to be that the prohibited activity is that they can serve at religious or faith-based organizations, but they cannot lead any type of worship or ceremony.
So ceremony would rely to tribal and cultural, or refer to tribal and cultural protocols?
Yeah, because I think in AmeriCorps terms, it might be viewed as a religion, but Claire, and what I might have to do, because I've never been asked this question, is dig a little deeper into like the CFR
Great.
laws and see what that looks like. Adrienne, anything come to mind for you?
Yeah, I know we had quite a few members last summer engaging and helping with powwows, and that was allowable. So I think it is just religion specific. And if they are like providing worship services, encouraging like worship, then that would be a prohibited activity. But I
Yeah.
think if it's more of like a cultural event,
Mm-hmm.
and I realize that that kind of sometimes can mix. So I guess we could do a little more research that might
Yeah,
be
I
correct.
see like cultural celebrations not being a prohibited activity.
Yeah,
But when I say ceremony, I mean like baptisms, that sort of thing is what more of what I was thinking of, and less of like powwows, that sort of thing. Um, but I think, yeah, I think if they are there helping with an event that's a cultural celebration, that is totally fine. Um,
Right.
but I also think if you want to, like, if you have examples or ideas of what your members will be engaging in, that if you send that information to us, that's makes it so the determination is easier to make ultimately. So if you wanted to talk about it more, we'd be happy to discuss it. But in the meantime, I'll look into, you know, our handbooks, the guidance and all of that sort of thing to see if there's any sort of distinct language around that.
Great. And I know Mia would be more than willing to participate in, not speaking for her, but you know, this happens a lot with the work we do, especially up in Fort Belknap. So, you know, she's a great leader to participate and be engaged in that conversation, to get
Okay.
that language right, to be perhaps more inclusive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So just know, like down the line, once everybody's settled, happy to make that happen. So,
Great. Okay. I'll make note of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And thank you both for the clarity.
Yeah.
yeah,
Any other questions?
yeah, there's one in the chat, Callie.
Oh, there is. Okay.
It says, this is back to the beginning. I noticed that the 10-week session is 300 hours. This is an average of 30 hours a week. Can they work 40 hours a week for less weeks?
No. So they can work 40 hours a week, but our service term only runs for 10 weeks. So they will be paid for the 10 weeks. And we are not going to exit people early if they complete the service term. So the way that we think about service terms versus hours is that when you commit to service, you're committing to a certain amount of time that you are in service. And then within that amount of time, there is a requirement of at a minimum of hours that you need to complete. The 300 hours is the minimum. Kathy, if your members are going to be doing 40 or more hours per week, I would encourage you to think about having them do 450 hours. So then they get a higher educational award and the value is higher for the amount of time that they're in service. Okay, cool. Glad I answered that question. And Kathy, feel free to call me if you want to talk about that sort of stuff. Okay, and Adriana, you're doing timesheets, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Have at it.
All right. All right. So timesheets, they are our number one favorite thing. Okay, so to begin with, timesheets are done through AmeriCorps. You should all have accounts in AmeriCorps, and I should have attached you all to your sites, and your members should be showing up in that list under your host site. If they aren't, I will do a sweep through again today after this just to make sure. But if you do not have an account or do not have access to an account, please let me know. All right, so moving on. We do ask that timesheets get turned in once a week. We would prefer Mondays just because it is a short service term and it just helps us keep on track. If a member gets behind, there's only 10 weeks and it's always kind of a struggle to get them to catch up. They run from Monday through Sunday through for each week. Members submit them every Monday. I covered that. Supervisors, you should be reviewing and approving them every Tuesday. If you want to do it on Mondays after the members complete them, or do it while the members are, completing them, that's totally fine. So the site supervisor reviews and approves, and then Montana Campus Compact staff will also review. And then if there's anything that we feel needs to be tweaked, or if there's something that shouldn't be in there, we'll send them back and we'll make a note of what needs to be improved. And then you guys will go through it, fix it, reapprove, and then send it back in. All right. Okay, so this is just kind of a chart for benchmarks of where members should be with their hours by certain dates. It doesn't have to be precise, but we do ask that they kind of try to work towards that. So for like the 300 hours that members are serving over 10 weeks, we would recommend that they are completing at least 130 hours by June 30th, and then hitting 260 hours by July 31st, and then 310 hours by August 12th. And you'll notice that we do ask that they complete 10 extra hours. This is just a safety precaution in case AmeriCorps comes in and asks to see timesheets and they're like, hey, these hours aren't allowable, we're removing them. That way the member has a little bit of padding. I haven't observed it happening, but we just want to make sure. And then in the next column, you'll see we broke it down for 450 hours served over 11 weeks, 160 hours by June 30th, 320 hours by July 31st, and then 460 by August 19th. And we set the benchmarks because we know that for some programming, members are going to be completing, a large amount of hours, maybe over the weekend. Like with the TRIO program, I know that they do their summer camps, and some of the AmeriCorps members are resident hall advisors. I'm going to call them that because I think that's what they are. They spend the night, so sometimes they're up until like 10 o'clock serving the kids that they're with. So hours can be distributed differently, but as long as they're completing them by these dates, they'll be on track to complete their hours and thus get their education award. Okay, so I thought we would walk through the America Learns. This is the site supervisor home screen. I think some of you have seen it and then some of you may not have. So I thought we would walk through this home screen and then I would walk you through how members fill out their timesheets and then at the end, how you approve them and that whole process. So this is the site supervisor home screen. If you look at it, you can access all of your members. It will give you a list. I did my account. So as you can see, I have 2 members. You can select on the member that you have, and it will show you the timesheets that they have pending, timesheets that they're missing, or timesheets that you have approved already. It does give you oh, sorry.
I was just wondering, will you say next when you want me to go to the next slide on?
Yeah, I can do that. Sorry, Callie. So you can select specific members. Some of you may have one, some of you may have multiple, so they should all appear in here. If they don't, let me know. Okay, yeah, if you could hit next, Callie, that'd be great. Okay, so this is the members homepage. It gives a list of, it breaks down their hours. It's actually kind of cool. So it will give you a time frame of the remaining hours and weeks, the average number of hours needed per week to earn their education award. It breaks down approved hours, pending hours, and then it also has the types of hours. So there are 3 types of hours. There's direct service, which is where most of your members should be logging their activities. There's citizenship development, so training, so that would be like site-specific training. On Monday when they do their orientation with us, that's all going to go under citizenship development. And then fundraising, we'll cover it again later, but they shouldn't be putting anything in fundraising. Next. All right, so logging hours, when a member is logging their hours, this is basically what it's going to look like. You have your time in and your time out. So that would be when they begin their service and then when they finish their service for that day. And then again, you have types of service. So direct service is the main type of service. It refers to the daily service that the members are participating in. Special projects or service days, that is National Days of Service or Montana Campus Compact Service projects. We don't have any during the summer, so your members probably won't be putting anything in that section. Teleservice is not allowed without prior approval. AmeriCorps is really specific on who can serve in teleservice, so it would just be best if they didn't engage in a lot of teleservice, or if you get prior approval from Callie or myself. Citizenship development and training, that can be 20% of the members' hours. And it can be, like I said, site-specific training, webinars, LinkedIn Learning, and then the orientation. And then fundraising, like I said, we have to pre-approve that, so. All right, next, Callie. Okay, so just to take a sidestep, so the members, when they input their direct service, daily service, we ask that they provide like a little narrative. There are words that we do try to avoid, which are listed under avoid. So if you see anything like worked or tutored, boss, job, played, any type of the prohibited activities that we covered before, traveled for service, universal, this is actually a phrase that a lot of members use, universal office duties like checking the mail and filing papers. We would prefer to avoid that type of language. Definitely we encourage members to use like engaged, oh, I'm blanking.
I can fill in there.
Yeah, mentoring.
Yeah, supported,
Mhm.
engaged, you know, even like assisted is fine. It really needs to be focused on the direct service that they are doing. And since AmeriCorps service is not considered a job, they are, you know, they're in a unique position as an AmeriCorps member. So instead of using words like I worked, they should say I served. We are not a tutoring program. And so instead of tutor, we encourage members to say mentored. And we really want to see these examples of full sentences. We don't want to see bullet points. We want them to focus on the narratives of what they are doing to make an impact. We understand that universal office duties, like checking the mail and filing papers, they happen, but we don't need to hear about them because technically that's not direct service. It's not really, that's not an activity that they're making an impact through. That is just universal duties that we all typically do within, you know, professional positions. And then we will share this information with your members as well. And we also give them kind of a one pager or a breakdown of, we call them like words to serve by or words to use in the narratives to help them frame their service. And this is where you're really going to come in when you're checking these timesheets. Please be checking not only for the time they came in, the breaks that they took, and when they left your service site. We really want you to be paying attention to these narratives. And as Adriana mentioned earlier, we're going to be reviewing them as well, and we can send them back to your member if we see anything. And the fortunate thing for you is that you can also send the timesheets back. You don't have to wait for them to get to Campus Compact staff for us to send them back. You can also send them back and say, I don't approve and this is why, please change the narratives. Or, hey, you actually put that you left at 4 a.m. instead of 4 p.m. That sort of thing does happen. So please pay attention to the hours that they're serving, the narratives, and the categories that they're putting them in. So pretty much no teleservice, no fundraising. Training should be in citizenship development and everything else should be in direct service. Any questions here? I know this is a lot of information. Okay, if any questions do come up, feel free to mute yourself or put them in the chat. Adriana, is it good to go to the next slide?
Yeah, thank you, Callie. All right, and then time not serving. So we do ask that members log if they take a lunch, a break, midday appointments. They can log those in here. Let's see. Oh, and then just a side note, make sure, well, this is mostly for members and I will reiterate this to them. Make sure that they're saving their timesheets if it is just a draft. If they're doing it every day and they want to submit it, you know, at the end of the week, totally fine. just remind them, hey, you can save your timesheets and update them daily if that's easier for them. All right, next. All right, and then this is just a breakdown of the totals. So this is probably part of what you guys are gonna see as supervisors. It'll give you the daily service that they're logging, service days or special projects, teleservice, citizenship development, fundraising, and then it'll give you a total down at the bottom. You'll be able to review all of the narratives, and then this is where the member will sign and submit it to you, and you will review. And then if you could hit next for me, Callie. All right, and then this is a screenshot of mine. Sorry, so I'm assuming that this is what yours is going to look like as well, but it will give you an idea of the timesheets that members have submitted, ones that are missing, and then ones that are pending your approval. So, basically with timesheets, we ask you to review, like Callie had said, time in and time out, make sure that that's accurate, make sure that the member is engaging in direct service, make sure that the narratives are concise, and answer questions like what you did, who did it benefit, and why does it matter? And then just please make sure that they're training them in on a weekly basis. It just makes it easier for just the short 10 weeks. And then you're gonna sign off and approve it, and then it'll come to us and we'll review it. And then if there's anything that needs to be adjusted or tweaks that need to be made, we'll send it back with some notes. Yeah, I think that is it. Are there any questions?
I think there was something I wanted to add with timesheets, and all of your like approvals of it. It's really good to set that day of like, hey, member, I want you to submit it on this day, and I'm going to do review on the following day, or kind of set that like pattern weekly so they know what is expected. So it doesn't come up on like a Friday and it's like, oh no, I didn't submit my timesheet. So try to set a standard with them. We see that is what has worked best with our most successful members and supervisors. And Morgan, you said, can you reiterate their new title? Last year, Katie was a AmeriCorps Vista Summer Associate. That was a title given to us from Vista. This year, since they are in a new grant, we're just calling them AmeriCorps Summer Members. We're just trying to keep it as simple as possible because we had to do this quick pivot this year. We weren't able to come up with a flashy title for them, unfortunately. Okay, any other questions? It looks like we have about 15 minutes.
I have another question if that's okay, Callie.
Yeah.
I never have a lack of questions. So we have a new marketing person on our campus, our new director of marketing, executive director, and she is maybe interested in doing like a press release announcing some of the work that Katie will be doing to like promote the makerspace and get the news out there. Is there you think I would know this, branding toolkit, or do we need to connect with you guys for like approval before that goes out? I just wanted to touch base on that.
Yeah, so in AmeriCorps' term and conditions, if you are publishing anything with your member in it, we ask that you either put the AmeriCorps logo and the Campus Compact logo on it, or you, bye Kathy. Okay, we'll be in touch. AmeriCorps requires you to acknowledge that they are an AmeriCorps member. So if you're not going to use the AmeriCorps logo and our logo, you then need to state in the press release that Katie is an AmeriCorps member through Montana Campus Compact serving at Flathead Valley Community College. And I can send you an email with that sort of language, but that's been the easiest way for them to do it, is for them to either put the logo or state member's name, state AmeriCorps through the sponsor that they're serving with, which Campus Compact is the sponsor, and then they are serving at the service site. Does that help you?
Yes, very much so. If you wouldn't mind forwarding me the like language, I can forward that on to our marketing person. They're
Perfect,
very
okay.
excited, which I love. We haven't had that before.
Yeah, and I think have some like JPEGs of logos.
Oh, that would be awesome. Probably
Right.
better quality than what I would pull.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions from anyone?
Callie, I've got one more, Clarion. With, and I'm sorry if I missed this, if it was addressed earlier, is there any, mileage or travel reimbursement, for example, Mia lives in Harlem, but she's coming down here to serve at MAPS, and she'll probably go home at least once or twice.
Yeah, the only thing that we reimburse travel for is any cost that was accrued during the criminal history background checks. We do not do travel reimbursement for members right now. If they just their like typical commute, no. If there was travel associated with service, then we could talk about that. But just like if they're just traveling to and from the service site, unfortunately, no, that's not in our grant.
So if she's traveling to and from pro development for youth leadership, do y'all pay for that?
We deal with that on a case by case basis.
Okay, so we can just shoot you an email?
Yeah,
Okay, great.
yeah, I encourage that. And yeah, and if your members did accrue any cost associated with traveling for the criminal background check to get their fingerprints done, then we reimburse them for that. So keep that in mind. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing.